So welcome everybody. My name is Luke Stocking and I am the Director of Public Engagement at Development and Peace Caritas Canada. And it's my great pleasure to welcome everybody here today for this very special launch for a very important and urgent action for our fall campaign this year, our Stand for the Land campaign. So we're very excited. We have some very special guests here today, including yourselves, of course. You are all special guests from across all of Canada. And so as we begin, I want to especially acknowledge, as we're starting, that we often like to begin our launches with a land acknowledgement. And so I want to offer an acknowledgement as we begin today that I'm joining you from the lands in Toronto, lands that have been the home of many First Nations and Indigenous peoples throughout history. They are lands that are subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Covenant, which is an agreement to share and care for the land for subsequent and future generations. And I would encourage everybody who is here, if you know the land, the territories that you are joining from, to also put your own land acknowledgement in the chat as we begin to gather. So I invite all of us to recognize the importance, especially as we, of course, the name of our campaign is Stand for the Land. And so we begin today with putting acknowledgements and putting acknowledgements in the chat and acknowledging the territories we are joining from. So this is just going over, as we begin today, our agenda for today. So we will begin, obviously, with we have this welcome, and I have 6 minutes left to complete the welcome, and then I will turn it over to my colleague, Mayelene Levine-Martel, who is, I like to say, the hardest working person on this Stand for the Land campaign to present the campaign to us. And then we will hear from our special guests, Elvin and Juana, who from Honduras. And following that, we will have a Q&A session. And then after the Q&A, we will go over back to Mayelene, who will go over some of the resources and websites, and hopefully you'll be inspired by the launch today to also join our workshops, and then we'll end with a closing prayer. But without further ado, before I turn it over to Mayelene, I would like to introduce to everybody our Executive Director, Carl A2, who I hope is in the waiting room or is in the Zoom, because he was asking me for the link. Carl, are you there?
I am there, not too far.
Wonderful, great. So Carl, over to you to bring your greetings as our Executive Director.
Yes, thank you very much, Luc. Merci beaucoup. C'est un plaisir.
Thank you very much, Luke. It's a pleasure to be here with you once again for this very important launch for our fall campaign. I want to thank you. After a summer full of fire and floods, a very strange summer, really, but not that strange when we think of the different effects of climate change on our planet that cause a lot of issues, a lot of problems. So this campaign launch is even more important because it combines environmental issues, but also human rights issues and human condition issues, as well as problems in democracy. And these are events that are occurring in different parts of our planet.
Honduras, that will be presented to you in a few minutes, is not isolated to Honduras. It is really committed to expose what's going on through Honduras, what's going on worldwide right now, as we're entering this new age of green energy, where many cars now are switching to batteries, our cell, and many other kind of new metal is needed. Then there's the search and the fight to find those new resources. And it's done without regard to the environment, to regards to human rights, labor rights, women's rights, children's rights. And so we're going in the opposite direction. whether it's in Africa, whether it's in Honduras, or many countries in Asia, Middle East included, and even in Ukraine with the grain that Russia doesn't want to see going anywhere in this world. So yes, I thank you to be here today. It is important that you are here, and it is important that you share with people in your parishes, in your diocese, in your surrounding, the whole kind of things that's going on. So your commitment is a commitment, as Pope Francis is telling us, to reach out in friendship with all the people that are suffering, and also in prayer for the oppressor, prayer for people that are blinded by what is in front of them, to improve life, not to make it miserable, and certainly in total respect of our planet. So once again, I thank you to be here. We're here in prayer for all the people suffering worldwide. We're here in solidarity. Et je vous remercie. Je vous remercie.
And I thank you for being here with us, continuing the work that we do to better the world that we live in. Thank you, and have a good meeting.
Thank you so much, Carl. Thank you for those words of welcome. I would like to now also call on our president of our National Council, who is with us, Brenda Erikaza. And Brenda is currently with our members at the Regional Assembly in Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm hoping she is online, but we'll invite Brenda, our president of our National Council, to bring her greetings as well too. Brenda, are you there?
I am so sorry. Usually I would greet you in French. Right now I am at the General Assembly, the Newfoundland and Labrador General Assembly. And so if you'll allow me, I will continue my my speech, my words in English, so that the people who are here with me can understand what I'm saying. So I will continue in English.
Welcome to everyone. I thank you very much for being present here with us today. Today, as I will say, the launch of our campaign is such an important moment for the Love and Peace membership. It is a moment where we get to listen to our partners. We get to leave that partnership that we talk about all the times. It is a moment for us not only to listen, to hear, and put in action what we're listening from our partners. So when we are launching this fall campaign, it will be a moment for us after to what our partner has said to us today, and how can we bring that forward and bring it to life in our diocese, in our parishes, in our schools, in our university, and all the places that all of your members here present today continue working for. So I hope this launch is going to be a moment of joyful with you. Here at Newfoundland Labrador, I have been welcomed graciously with the members for the past days, and yesterday we had amazing energy, and I do hope that we will continuing this energy through this launch today. I do want to also say this moment for us listening to our partners, I think bring it back to what we do as a One Piece. When we talk about working in partnership, working about mobilizing, this is what we're talking about. So it's a moment to us to ground ourselves back to the who we are right now. We get to live it, listen to our members, and we also get to ask all the questions that we have. So that way, when we go back to our region, our parishes, our schools, we get to share the voices of our two partners present here today. So I'm sending a warm welcome to those two partners, but also sending a warm welcome to everybody present here. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your webinar.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Thank you. And so the moment has arrived to introduce our campaign, which kicks off today with this very special webinar. And to do the introduction of this campaign, I want to invite my colleague who has worked immensely hard in the preparation of this campaign, Mayelen Levine-Martel, to tell us what we are all about this fall with our Stand for the Land. Mayelen, over to you.
Merci, Luc. Bonjour tout le monde.
Thank you, Luke. Hi, everyone. My name is Mayelen. I work on campaigns at Development and Peace. I'm not the only one who does this work. It's a team effort. It's an inter-service job. We work with all the project leads, our different partners. And this year, we are continuing a campaign that started earlier this year. We presented to partners, ACA in Colombia and Radio Progreso in Honduras, And this fall, we are continuing the accompaniment of Radio Progreso, ERIC, to do some work in the San Pedro sector, where life is being affected by a mining company that is polluting rivers. And so before I say anything more, I will start by presenting you a video that gives a summary of the campaign. It's only a minute-long video, and so I hope that you'll be able to hear that properly, and I'll come back to you after we watch these.
In northern Honduras, the state has irregularly granted a mining concession in the Carlos Escaleras National Park. Since then, an iron mine has been poisoning the waters of the Guapinol and San Pedro rivers. This has affected the lives of local people who depend on those rivers. They have been peacefully mobilizing against the mine since 2015. Unfortunately, communities are ignored, attacked, and criminalized. 30 of the protesters were charged. 8 of them were unjustly detained for over 2 years. 3 of these land, water, and rights defenders were killed in 2023. Our partner, ERIC-Radio Progreso, is accompanying these defenders. They have asked for our help. Let's stand with the people of Guapinol and San Pedro in their fight to protect their national park, their rivers, and their lives. Let's stand for the land. Sign in solidarity.
Merci, Luc. Donc, voici.
Thank you, Luke. And so that is a 1-minute-long summary of our campaign. And this is why and explains why this year we have decided to help this specific community. At the end of today, we will present to you some of the actions and material that is available to you. But the main action that we have here is a letter to Ambassador to ask for the protection and support of these people in Honduras. I also wanted to present this campaign through the words of 3 people that have worked with us. We have Lionel, Daniel, and Juana, who is with us today. And so we will simply read one quote from each person to get a better idea of what's happening over there. Luke, do you want to speak in Lionel's voice?
Yes, this is from Lionel George, a member of the Committee for the Defense of Common and Public Goods in Tocoa, Colón, Honduras. Communities are displaced. Rights are violated. Access and the right to water are denied to give priority to extraction and the plundering of resources. This is the voice of Daniel, Guapinol defender and former political prisoner, one of the Guapinol 8 who were detained for over 2 years. It is urgent to cancel all mining in this area of our park. The company must be stopped, and all the damage it has caused to our rivers and mountains must be repaired.
Je vais parler pour Juana qui est avec nous.
I will now read the words of Juana, who is with us. She is also a member of the Committee for the Defense of Common and Public Goods in Tocoa. She has said, "We live every day with the fear of being killed or having one of our children taken away." So it is now time to pass the mic to our guests who are from and in Honduras. I will start by introducing Elvin Hernández. He works with our partner, ERIC-Radio Progreso. He will talk more about what ERIC-Radio Progreso does, but I did want to mention that we can support the work that they do through financing that we receive through the Nouveau Québec Sans Frontières program that is part of the Québec's Ministère des Relations Internationales et de la Francophonie. So, Elvin, we will now listen to you. You can explain to us what is happening in Honduras. Thank you very much, Mayalen. Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, friends. Thank you for inviting us. And thank you for sharing this campaign. I want to thank you for all the solidarity that we have received, and particularly the solidarity that is expressed through the accompaniment of a community that is resisting. So Honduras is a country. It's a small country. There's about 112,000 kilometers square. And so there are a lot of issues that we deal with. One of them is, well, we have social issues. There's also very weak institutions here, and we have a lot of ecological issues. And today's conversation has to do more with these ecological issues. This ecological crisis has to do with the 500 mining concessions that are present in the country. Not all of these concessions are currently in action, but Guapinol is one of the ones that is one of the zones that is impacted, that is being affected by this, I guess we could call it conflict, this mining conflict. This conflict is specifically located in a national park, the Carlos Escaleras National Park. It is a very important, it is a place that has a community that needs to be protected. It is a zone where there are a lot of things that are being produced. And in Guapinol, the concessions are centered in the park per se. Actually, the park was modified to be able to have these mining concessions installed. And as you can see on the map on the screen here, in this park, we find two of the most important rivers of the region. I don't know if you can see these two blue lines. You have the Guapinol River and the San Pedro River. These are two rivers that are being very seriously impacted by the situation. You can see here that the actual mining project where everything is processed is in a region where the two rivers are present. There's a lot of work that is being done there. And so there are different installations that are installed there, and that represents a lot of these projects need a lot of water. They consume a lot of water, and this has a serious impact on the deterioration of both rivers, and that is a menace for the communities that live around there. Here at ERIC-Radio Progreso, in collaboration with people like Development and Peace, we work with different ecological committees that also are part of the Tocoa parish, work with the San Alonso Foundation. All of these are partners with which we are trying to find we organize different campaigns, different activities to try to prevent and strengthen grassroots activities. There are families here that are living very difficult situations. We accompany them as much as we can. And so this is the type of work that we do here at Radio Progreso. I think Juana, maybe we can now move to the next slide. Luke, on this image, you can see the park. You can see the general area of the park, and you can see the location of the mine itself. It's important to understand where it is. It's really in the middle of the park. And this company have installed two mining concessions in the middle of the park, and that is destroying really the park. And the images of the park that we see are always very intense. And so this has affected some of the actual make of the park. but well, by seeing this map, you can imagine the ways that the mine is really creating it's really contaminating these rivers. You can see how this is a real menace, a real threat for the communities. I think we can go to the next slide.
Now, this gives you another perspective so that you can see the whole of the area. So it's a satellite view of where the mining is and how the river goes through it and goes all the way to the Guapinol and Samuela communities and all the way to the city of Tocoa and where the city of Tocoa is situated. Now, this is important because Tocoa has two areas. There's the mountains, which is the national park, and then the valley of the Aguan. The park then is being affected by these two mining operations. And then in the valley where there's the water is being affected because almost the whole valley is being used for palm oil cultivation and production. And so the future of the area is very uncertain. If the water is being affected, and then if the valley is full of just palm oil product cultures, then that has an impact on the whole area. Some studies say that the consumption of water for the culture of the palm oil, for the crops of the palm oil, is very high. So if you multiply 150 palm trees per hectare, it's millions, about 200 million. So if you multiply that by the 12 liters of water a day, that's millions of liters of water being consumed from the valleys to produce this palm oil. Now, if at the same time the mountain area is being destroyed by the mining operations, then that really causes uncertainty for the future of the region. So the productive land is being destroyed, the water is being contaminated, and the water is also being used by this massive monocrop culture. So as defenders of the Guapinol Rio, Juana is here with us, but she's been having issues being able to get the interpretation, but at least during this part in Spanish, she's been able to follow. So I would like to present to you Juana because she is such a wonderful example of a person, a woman who has shown huge strength and courage and commitment to the cause. And we've learned a lot from her. And it is always a great gift to be able to listen to her, but also to see how she's able to find the strength to fight with all the hardships and the difficulties in her region. So I'll give the floor to Juana. Hello, first of all, I would like to thank you for this space and this opportunity of gathering and having these conversations. As Elvin has mentioned, for us, the people who live in this community, we've faced many human rights violations, and starting by the criminalization of 32 of our comrades who were detained, put in prison, 8 of which were detained more than 914 days. And then the fight continued, the struggle continued, we continue to fight to defend our territory to defend, as Elvin has said, this national park that is protected land that feeds into more than 32 water sources that are the water sources for the Department of Colón. So the struggle has continued in opposition to this project that is truly a project of death and destruction. 3 of our comrades have died between January and June of 2023. You mentioned it with the picture of our comrades who are members of this collective of the Guapinol community and human rights defenders. Having lost these 3 comrades who were such inspirations for the struggle, had a huge impact on us and has increased the fear in our community and our collective. We've faced direct threats, persecution, surveillance. And this has happened to all of us involved in the campaign. There's also been defamation campaigns in order to weaken our struggle. From June to August, we've seen more than 100 people leave the community because of the fear. Some were threatened. We have 42 members from the Dominguez family who were forcibly displaced from the community. So we often have to ask ourselves, how can we continue fighting when we have a system that has shown no interest in stopping these so-called projects in our community? We've had a change in presidency, and this was one of the communities who fought to change the government. And up to now, we've had no answer. In her first days, Xiomara Castro said that the open mines were going to be canceled, but we've seen no real response. No real response for us who have been fighting, who had been on the front lines for more than 5 years, showing the proof that these projects are destroying our land. These projects were put in place through corruption, through lying, through cheating, without previous consultation with the population and the communities. And they're still here today in 2023, destroying a protected area that feeds and brings the water to all the communities of Colón. And still, this company is operating. In June, we were told through Luque Medina from the Natural Resource Secretariat of the country that there was going to be that the project was going to be paused until 2025. Nevertheless, the company continues to prepare to continue with the destruction of this protected area. As a community, we've continued to fight. We've seen some doors opened by this present government to be able to plead our case. With the previous government, these doors were not even open to us. Today, we see this possibility, but there doesn't seem to be any political interest in canceling and stopping this mega project. During 2 whole months, there was no water running in the river. And when the company stopped its operations, immediately the next day, the water started to flow again. So for all of us who live near these operations, we've seen that now that they've stopped their operations, the water is back and flows in our river. I would also like to thank the international organizations who have been supporting us, who have been also supporting our comrades while they were detained and have demanded the liberation of our comrades. They will not stop us. Our struggle continues until we're able to fully stop to this project that has displaced so many, that has detained people, killed some of our comrades, brothers, sisters, and leaders of this movement. For us who are on the front lines of these process, it's been heartbreaking to see our river without water. It was as if the life was being taken away from us. A river that was full of water, full of fish, that fed so many of us who live in this community. And there was no more water for the fish or for the animals to drink. And it was heartbreaking for us. And the present government, after all the proof that we've presented of what this company is doing, the government has done nothing. This company is here through falsified signatures and lies and corruption. My signature was falsified even in their documents. From the beginning, I've been opposed to this project, a project that truly only brings death, because they use all our natural resources. We know that these are people from other countries, and the only thing they leave behind is the pollution, the killings, the destruction. And how do I get back these 914 days that my partner was detained and my children were without their father? Really, the damage that this company is causing in this protected area, this national park, and nothing has been done. I thank you for listening to us, for giving us this space, because these are truly spaces in which we can share our reality, the reality of all of us who continue to fight, who still face huge danger, and we will never stop. We will continue to stand up and go out to defend our natural resources that are being affected daily. Yes, now we would move on to a question period. So we'll invite you, if you have any questions for Elvin or Juana, to raise your hand, and Luke will be able to give you the floor.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much to both of you, Elvin and Juana. And yes, we can take some questions now. Yes. Okay. So we have a question from Suzette.
Thank you. I'm wondering, there was a picture of 8 men, and I'm wondering what happened with the 8 men.
We can take maybe a few questions at a time. So we have the first question, and I saw you're noting it down, so it's noted. And then I have Yves and Muriel.
J'aimerais savoir
I would like to know the mining companies. What countries are they from? Are these Canadian mining companies or from other countries?
And then maybe we'll take one more question. So we have 3 for Elvin and Juana to answer. Eva.
I want to ask my question in Spanish to my friends from Latin America, to Elvin and Juana. Ustedes han presentado la Corte Penal Internacional, or
have you presented in the International Criminal Court or the Latin American Court for Human Rights? So the fight for our comrades who were detained, the UN, they were recognized as human rights defenders and that this was an illegal detention. So this brought a campaign for their liberation, and they were freed. They are back home thanks to this international, national, and local support. So thankfully, they are back home. Of course, some have had serious impact from spending more than 900 days in jail. As for bringing the cases to court, our case has reached the international sphere when it comes to corruption, the attack on human rights. So yes, we have presented a complaint in the Inter-American Human Rights Court. Elvin has mentioned it. We have fought to be able to get the information of who are the owners of these companies, Perez and Lenny Perez and others, but who are behind that? Who are the shareholders? We know that there are some US investments in this company and other foreign investments, but we don't have names. We know Kenapor. We know that they're involved, but there's no true clarity of who's behind Lenny Perez. And I think that Elvin might have more information of exactly who is behind this mega project. This might be one of the questions for which we don't have any clear answer at the moment, because if there's something that we've seen in this project is how they've used all the cracks within the system between the national legal system and the international legal system. There are some cracks in the system there that this company has used. First of all, how they've established themselves as a local company, and then they changed the owners or shareholders, and all of a sudden it wasn't local investment but international investors, and they showed up with a different name. And when we started looking at these new shareholders, but when we look at who are the main investors, 98% of the investors were these same families. It's a couple actually. And then we realized that the main relationship, but it wasn't that visible. This US company, the data we have is that the only fiscal requirement of Mr. Perez as Lenit Perez and his wife is that now their official address of residence is in the United States. And they're not facing any fiscal responsibilities because of the destruction of the territory, but because they helped financing Donald Trump's campaign. And that capital came from some iffy or suspicious sources. So it's difficult to see or say who is behind all this. The concession of this mine wasn't initially from the Peles and Pinares, but it was from one of the largest drug traffickers in the country, Javier and Lionel, two brothers who were arrested in the United States. And so this mining concession has always been difficult to pinpoint who is truly behind it. There's been a lot of changes and it's been very murky to be able and impossible to get an actual answer. The legal strategy that they've used of changing names and owners and shareholders has made it much more difficult to really understand where the capital and the investors come from and who they are exactly. Shall we move on to another round of questions?
Yes, I think though there was the question about the International American Human Rights Court, or bringing the case, Eva's question, bringing the case to the International American.
Juana lo había comentado que
Yes, I think Juana mentioned that yes, these cases have been brought up at the Inter-American Court, in particular for human rights violations, and we've also requested protection for the land defenders. But there is also a struggle that needs to happen locally or internally, which is to stop and cancel these concessions, to remove these permits. And this is what the committee is working on right now. And I don't know if it was successful or not, but I think I understood Juana saying that there was a meeting with the government a couple of days ago to put pressure on the government to cancel these concessions and these permits. Yes, indeed, we had a meeting, an interinstitutional meeting so we've been demanding for many months for this meeting, and the idea was to bring to the table our demands and to ask from the new government the cancellation of this mega project, because we know that this company is trying to get a hold of these new permits, and they might be getting them. So we want this whole project to be canceled, to be stopped. And our other demands are around the human rights violations. We need answers for the families, these families that have had to leave the community because of the persecution, and the threats still continue. We're being threatened. We're being told that we are the cause for this company having to stop their operations. So we work. So the company is using their own employees to bring fear into the community. So we bring demands because of these human rights violations, these persecutions, and we demand also that there be an investigation of who is behind Leonid Perez. We know that he's fled the country, and the company has continued to work, although they say that operations have been stopped and suspended. It's not true. We've been able to see, because it's less than 50 meters from our houses, and we can see that the machinery is still running, not as much as it used to be, but yes, they're still working. So as a community, we've demanded that this project be stopped.
Esperamos la respuesta. We are waiting for an answer. We hope that it will be soon. And we are hoping to not have more deaths in our community because of our opposition to this project.
Thank you so much. So yes, let's take some more questions now.
If we cannot stop the mine, can we build a kind of a structure that would diminish the water that is consumed by the project, so that the pollution is less intense?
That is one question. And then Susanna, hopefully you've been able to figure out how to unmute yourself. We'll go to you now for the second question. Susanna?
Yes, thank you. I was able to do that. My question in Spanish for you is, ¿cuál creen que sería la acción?
What do you think would be the best, most efficient and positive action that we, as people in Canada, could do with you to help you with your action, so that we can end this company, or end this project? What could we do? Well, I think that we have what we have gotten to is that this government needs to be pressured. We need pressure from other countries for the stopping of this project, because the proofs are there. We have proof. As a committee, we have gathered all the necessary proof for this project to be completely canceled and stopped. So what we need now is national, international pressure for the cancellation, for the stopping of this project.
Sorry, go ahead, Elvin.
I think it's very hard for communities to think. Well, when a community's life is completely based around a river, well, we see, when we look at a community, its history, the lives of its people, rural communities are based on the river. They gather around water, they gather around the rivers. And so for a community to have its river destroyed, its history destroyed, everything gets destroyed. And so that is why I think, well, and with mining projects particularly, the ecological destruction has an impact on everyone. It has an impact, yes, on the community, but on the planet in general. And so there is something completely irrational in this. The second thing I wanted to say, what's the most efficient way to help? I think that international, national support to really shine the light on the illegality of what's happening here, on the destruction of this national park and of its communities, and more importantly, the threat this causes on the families of this region. Because to me, this is the biggest irrationality in all of this. We are in a zone where water is the base of everything, and this situation is, there's no way to explain how this happens. And so I think that's important to do some to really inform people about what's happening, have some international pressure, so that people and companies are aware of how illegal and irrational this is. I think the more voices we have, the more chances we have to see a change happen.
Thank you, Alvin and Juana. So there was the question from our brothers and sisters in Quebec about a retention basin, and then to add another question or two to take, well, go to, looks like we have a gathering of our members in Winnipeg, St. Boniface in Manitoba. So great to see our members from Winnipeg and St. Boniface together there. I'll turn it over to you as well for a question. Go ahead.
Great, thank you everyone. Here I have Winnipeg and St. Boniface that are here with us. The camera, I'll try my best to turn the camera the other way, but we have a question from Christine.
Hi, this one specifically to Juana. I think and if anything triggers her emotions, she can avoid answering. But as a woman in a situation or in a country where the laws do not, or fails to protect citizens or women specifically. I'm sure it has been tough, but were there situations that were exceptional which you carry with you, or how did you overcome or are still participating in this activism or standing for the people? And to both of you have did by any chance was there any involvement with the United Nations, given that there were so many rights violated, which falls under different departments as well?
Well, it has been very hard. I am the mother of 3 children. One of them is 21 years old. She will turn 21 in October. Another, and 2 daughters of 10 and 6 years old. And when I started this process, my youngest was 2 years old, and this has been a wonderful experience despite all the bitter moments. There's been a lot of threats, very direct threats, threats directed at my daughters as well. The threats of kidnapping, threats of surveillance. And for us women, when we face a situation where our children are being threatened, I think that is it's particularly hard, and it has been the most difficult part for me. And I think that I wasn't incarcerated, but I think that I've been very strong also. I've protected my home because, and sometimes I have moments where I ask myself, why do we continue fighting? Will this be worth all of this, all of danger that I'm maybe putting myself and my family in? And I ask myself a lot of questions, and sometimes I just don't have answers for these questions. Sometimes I have been in different meetings, and I have said I want to continue fighting. I was told recently that my daughters were being surveilled in school. I was told that there was a ransom put on my name. But a lot of people have told me, a lot of my friends have told me, get out of there, relax. But for me to participate from afar on the phone, to me, that's not the fight. And I've said it in the different meetings we've had. How can I make sure that I have some kind of tranquility? What mechanisms, what can we put together so that I am at peace at home? Because I'm afraid when I'm here, when spending nights, there's some nights where I'm thinking about how I could get attacked. My daughters could be attacked. Sometimes we don't sleep. Sometimes we have to be constantly aware. We are always a little worried when we hear we hear motorcycles pass by with people with hoods, and we get worried. And so what we do is that we ask God to care for us, to help us, because I am sure that this is a just fight. It is not a fight for me or for my daughters. This is a fight for childhood, for the young people that are starting their lives. It's for all of our region. We are not only fighting for the Guapinol River, we are fighting for all the rivers, for all the water sources. We are fighting for a population. What will they do if this company works here, when we don't have access to the water for our communities? And so it has been very intense. I had never been a part of a fight like this, and I have embraced this process with a lot of love. This fight for our rivers. There is some division in our community, because we sometimes get attacked because we are women, that we are born to have children, to take care of our husband, to take care of the home. But that has not been the main difficulty for me. That is not the problem. When sometimes we have even we have people that we work with that try to don't want to hear our voices because we're women, and that sometimes is hard. But what really is hard is the threats for me and my family. Thank you very much, Juana. I I want you to know that these threats is something that a lot of families live through. We accompany 42 people that were displaced from Guapinol, and their families and people who have moved all the way to the United States, and part of it was them escaping this conflict. And so this is a very serious situation. It's a very real situation. The other question about the UN, well, yes, the UN has been a part of this. The UN has been working with us, has been accompanying part of this process, has been pressuring the government so that some of our demands are followed through. Also, they have helped with having access to information about these concessions. They were present on the land. Well, there was an important research that was done, and so they were present here for that. It was a research done for the ecological impact, and so we have gotten some help from the UN. We've also had different acts of solidarity in Guapinol. Excuse me, it's a little bit hard to hear, Elvin. We've had solidarity also from part of churches and help coming from Trujillo and Atlantida. We've had a representative of the UN too that helped with these partnerships, and so in that way, the UN has been around. But we need much more help, much more support from the UN that isn't limited to a single representative. We need pressure put upon the Honduran state. Now we have a commission against corruption and impunity that is in the works, and so we're trying to see, well, how can a group of deputies, how can they change a law that was something that was part of the law after the after the beginning of the work with the mining companies. The park has already been existing for so long, and after we start changing laws 10 years after, we still see companies starting to work here, and then we start modifying laws because of the work of the mining company in the central zone of the park. How that just shows how corrupted this entire thing is, and this is what we have seen through this process, this work in Guapinol, and when this mining project.
Thank you. We have just enough time for maybe one last round of questions. And so I'll start with a first. There's a question from Michael Swan in the chat. Last year, President Xiomara Castro has declared open pit mining illegal. What is the explanation for the continued operation of the mine? And I think, Juana, you mentioned that too, that despite the new president and what she has said about mining, that still you see no change. What is the explanation for this? That's the first question. For a final question, we'll go to Irma in London. Welcome, Irma.
My question was partially answered as well. I just wanted a bit more specifics as to the role of the Catholic Church in supporting and showing their solidarity with your campaign and with the struggles that you're having.
Bueno, sobre el primer punto, la presidenta en su discurso.
On the first question, the new president, when she came into power, in her speech, she said that all mining rights were going to be canceled, but then the minister made a declaration saying that there would be no more open pit mining, that they weren't going to extend new permits, but this was not put into law. This was a declaration, a press release that was sent, but it was not put into law. So it just remained as empty words from part of the Minister of the Environment and the whole government under Xiomara Castro. Now, why aren't they implementing this electoral promise, or why aren't they applying this law when we see so much illegal things happening around these mining rights? Our analysis tells us that it has a lot to do with the fact that those who control the mining, who control the energy companies, who control the finances in the country, and who also control the media, even in the country, are pretty much all the same families controlling everything. And these families have been able for so long to just act outside of the state and the law. So the new government doesn't have the power to be able to fight these people. In most countries, the power is in the hands of the state, and then the government a new government can take power and then implement change. But in our case, a lot of the power is outside of the institutions. And these powers outside of the state are the ones who are leading these mining projects. And the government don't have the power, the strength to be able to go against these people. And in these first few months, the government has tried to dialogue and to find solutions, but we get the feeling that the dialogue that they've had with these leaders of the energy sector, the mining sector, etc., we see that the government has also met with the groups fighting against these powers. But when we look at the results, the truth is that the government is getting closer to consensus with the companies and with the people in power than with the civil society that is fighting against these. Now, the work with the church has been, we can see it at two levels. At the level of the municipality of Tocoa, for example, there's been a long history of presence of the Jesuits in Tocoa, this area, in this area, and they've been fighting since the 70s, since the time of the agrarian reforms and others. They've helped in the training of leaders in the fight for the environment, and the church has been very present, accompanying the committee. And from this parish, we've established a bridge so that the diocese participate more directly. Until recently, the Bishop of Tuquillo, who facilitated but didn't participate actively, but there was a change of bishop this year, and the new Bishop Luis is much more committed, not only through words but in actions. For example, this mass that occurred in Guapinol, the bishop was present, but the bishop is also moving forward, meeting with people in the communities where there are mining operations. So he is much more active working with the communities defending their land. And and they're connected with other dioceses in the struggle to defend the communities and in the struggle against the mining operations. So the church has had a very important role. I have to say also that the church has entered a transitional phase. The authorities who have been there for a long time, the cardinal and the confere, have been seeing a lot of changes. Many bishops have been changed in the country, and this has brought positive movement with more bishops who are more aware of the issues around the mining operations. So in this sense, we're incredibly hopeful.
Thank you so much, Elvin and Juana, and that's a good note to end our Q&A portion on. Hope, as you know, our theme is create hope for the next 5 years, and so please, everybody, you can join me in thanking Juana and Elvin for their words with us by showing your reactions in the reaction button, or just waving to just join me in thanking Elvin and Juana for their presence here today. Thank you so much. And I hope you will stay with us, because I'm going to turn it back to Mayelen now, because I think the way we can say thank you today with our words, and we can say thank you, with our reaction buttons, but I think the best way we can say thank you is for all of us to really commit our time in the months ahead to this important action. Juana and Elvin spoke of international solidarity, and that's exactly what we are going to do now. And I'm going to turn it over to Mayelen to talk us through how we can thank Elvin and Juana through our actions that we can now take. So Mayelen, back over to you.
Merci, Luc. Donc, merci à Juana et à Elvin.
Thank you, Luc, and thank you, Juana and Elvin, for talking to us why we chose this campaign. So we would like us to take action in your community and where you are, and to spread the word. We need to unite our voices and our strength to put pressure here, to bring pressure locally in Honduras. So our objective is 32,000 signatures, or 1,000 for each of the 32 people who were indicted in Guapinol for the defense of the river and of life. So we give ourselves until February 25th, which is the date at which they were detained. They were detained on February 24th. And once we've gathered the signatures, we will plan a meeting with the ambassador, with the delegation from Development and Peace, to bring the signatures to the ambassador. So I don't know if Luc wants to add something. There are two ways of signing. There's the printed petition, and then you can also sign online. So I'll invite you to go and see our new website where we present the fall campaign. So I wanted to say that Elvin will be with us this fall. He had to be with us for Lent, but he didn't get his visa. Now that he has it, we'll be very happy to welcome him. He will be in Quebec and in Ontario, so he will visit different cities. Here are the dates. A more detailed schedule will be available through the events on the website, but he will be in Montreal, Sherbrooke, Toronto, Ottawa, and Saint-Jérôme. So we're organizing everything, and we'll make the details public from the 12th to the 24th of October. And this is possible thanks to the support from the Ministry of International Solidarity and Francophonie from the Quebec government. So we can go and check out the website now.
Yes, okay, one moment.
So on the website, you'll find all our resources. I'll encourage you to read to find out more. Elvin wrote an article on the case of Guapinol that is available in the resources on the website. We also have all the thematic information on the case, on the region, and everything that's happening in the Valle de Laguan. You'll find all the posters, all the information. All of this can be printed at home. We also have a few copies that have been printed that are available through our animators. We'll also present the action that accompanies the petition. We have all sorts of banners if you want to put banners on your social media, on your websites. We have the message for the parishes, and we have the example of the letter to the members that was sent at the beginning of the fall to launch our campaign. And we also have a cleaning campaign. We thought that a good way of mobilizing people and to reach people outside of our member network is to mobilize them in a concrete action. So the idea was to support land defenders by acting ourselves. So by picking up the garbage and cleaning up in our own areas. So that's another way of supporting the campaign. In the taking action section, we invite you to sign the petition, and also if you sign it in a group and you have many sheets of the petition, there is the report on the signatures, so you can inform us of how many signatures you've collected and then send them to us to the Montreal office by mail, or digitalize them and send them by email.
Et puis sur la page d'accueil.
And on the homepage for the campaign, you'll see here we have a timeline that presents the timeline of the Guapinol situation. You'll find the videos that we showed you, and you'll have links to different resources. So I invite you all to visit our website. I invite you to take a moment and explore it and join us in this campaign in solidarity with the land defenders in Guapinol and in the San Pedro sector in Honduras. Oh, and there are also workshops. So I don't know if there's maybe some animators here that want to talk about those quickly, but there are some events that are advertised on our website. There's an events section. You can see the different workshops that will be taking place in your area.
So you can find all the different workshops that are taking place. They're all listed here. Lots of different workshops happening to really go deeper into this whole campaign and learn more and really prepare and organize. Organizing is so important, to become organized so that we can hit this goal of 32,000 signatures. And so as we come to a close now, I just again want to thank everybody for joining us today, for your enthusiasm, for welcoming Elvin and Juana, and a special thank you again to Elvin and Juana for being here to inspire us, to kick us off as we go forward. And we really hope that we will get those 32,000 signatures and really give that international pressure to the struggle and join you in this struggle, and that we can see a good result. So as we come to a close, then I'm just going to share my screen, and we have a final closing prayer. So thank you again to everybody, and especially to our interpreters as well, who have been working hard today. Special thank you to them, to Myelen, to all the staff who have prepared this campaign, and of course, in advance to all of you, our dear members from across all of Canada, especially those gathered in groups for the regional assemblies. We really thank you for taking the time to be here today. So I'll just share the screen, and we will have our closing prayer. And this closing prayer, many of you will recognize it is our thematic prayer for our 5-year Create Hope campaign. And I think Myelen and I are going to pray it alternately in French and English. And of course, you are welcome to just, with your microphones closed, to pray along with us. So let us put ourselves before God. Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. We believe that we are one great human family. You call us to walk together and to recognize the dignity of every person.
Nous croyons que nous partageons une maison commune.
We believe that we share a common home. You call us to care for all of creation.
We believe in the sanctity of life. You call us to treat all people with kindness and compassion in the way of Christ.
Nous croyons en ton règne de justice, de paix
We
et
believe that you reign in justice, peace, and joy. You call us to put your word into practice to build a more just, humane, and joyful world.
Lord Jesus, guide us to be in solidarity with the joys, hopes, sorrows, and anxieties of all people, especially those impoverished by unjust socioeconomic and political systems.
aide-nous à marcher dans tes pas et à répandre le message de ton évangile.
Help us to follow your footsteps, to be bearers of the good news.
Holy Spirit, inspire us to find new and creative ways of responding to your calls.
Renforce notre engagement.
Strengthen us in our commitment to create hope in our world.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you again, everybody. Bonne campagne à tous et toutes. Merci encore.
May you all have a great campaign. Thank you
really,
again.
Thank you again, and good luck, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Take care. This concludes our campaign launch. Take care. Bye bye.
Merci.
Adiós.